Hello and welcome to this, the Books Crypto Club weekly catch-up on Zoom. It is Sunday, the 5th of February 2023, and usually we would talk about cryptocurrency, blockchain, DeFi, NFTs, ICOs, STOs, any other three-letter acronyms, all related in that kind of space. Most of this week's session, we're actually going to be talking about artificial intelligence, and particularly around ChatGPT and sort of things to watch out for with that. Some of the gotchas as well, because it's been in the news quite a lot lately. Anyway, a little bit different from normal. We do hold these sessions every Sunday evening, 7 till 8, and everyone's welcome to join. So come along to a future session. There's a link down below giving you details on how to come to the event. Anyway, with that, let's see who's going to come and join us today. Hey, good afternoon or good morning, Loris, is it? I can't hear you.
Hi. Hopefully the sound comes through. You can hear me now.
That sounds good. Yeah, welcome aboard.
Yeah, nice to meet you. I saw the group online. It seemed like everyone was in the kind of same kind of area of interest that I was involved with. So it seemed like a great group to join. So yeah,
brilliant, good. Well, welcome aboard. I'm guessing it's the first time you've been along. We never know how many people are going to show up for this. We never know what we're going to end up talking about, which kind of makes it a bit of fun, really. But I encourage beginners to come along, experts, everything in between, really. So what's your area of interest in particular?
I don't have like a particular area of interest. I've been involved like in and around the cryptocurrency kind of the scene. I mean, obviously just investing and just it's been an area of like fintech's been an area of interest for me. Just out. It's not like kind of professional kind of work. I'm an engineer by professional trade, so. Ironically enough, I mean, obviously it's like a different kind of engineering, but it's more mechanical than the old school type of engineering. But it was, I guess, crypto was something I was interested in, and it was just something that I got involved with. I started getting involved, like I say, just with the investments and whatnot. But it was just something that blockchain technology was very like it's really interesting, and it's got a lot of growth. So yeah, I was trying to learn more about it and understand more about it, and just get involved. So yeah.
Okay, good. How long have you been looking at it or researching? Or
I've got involved for quite some time. I actually first started. I first heard about Bitcoin kind of very briefly in about 2013, 2014. That was like the early days when it was just kind of a very nuanced type thing. And then I just kind of read along the side, or I read about it really a little bit, just not for any kind of commercial gain or anything like that. I just thought it was just something that, it was a new concept that put out there, and it was more just, I guess, back then it was just more like tech enthusiasts, really, just putting out some kind of new concept of digitized money, and it was just seemed something that I've always been fairly like a bit coming from like a fairly like a technical background and an engineer and scientist and all that. I've always been interested in like that. I guess just new technologies, new concepts, new ideas, and it seemed like a great concept at the time. But then obviously it started to take off quite a lot, and then it was a year or two later that I started reading more and more about it, and then started picking up interest in it, and then obviously then at that point it was more of something that you could invest in and get involved with, and like financially get involved with, and when I first got involved in Bitcoin, it was only like I think the first Bitcoin I bought, it was like a 300-400 pounds, and it's just it's gone like leaps and bounds in the past like 5 years, five to 10 years. It's just gone from like from this kind of
obscure thing.
It's really taken off in a huge way now. It's global. It's probably, if you consider it a currency, it's probably the most valuable currency in the world.
I found it fascinating because my background, I guess, in some ways is similar to yours, timescale wise, because I started getting interested in it. I started hearing about it in 2014, 2015. I started going to various events in London where people were talking about it. And at the time, and I say this to a number of people, at the time when I was going to all these meetings, learning all about it. And most of the time I didn't really understand what it was about, but I realized there was something that I couldn't quite grasp, that, oh, this is going to be a big thing. And then over time, I eventually realized that what it was three kind of things about it. The first is that it's ultimately all about a protocol. It's a software protocol, ultimately managing a network, synchronizing stuff, and that's how you end up with crypto. And the great thing about protocols that I love is that they're completely dull and boring, and no one takes any interest in them, so they leave them alone. But the game changing, they really are. You think the internet is a protocol, TCP/IP, on email is a protocol,
SMTP,
yeah. So you've got all these protocols that people don't realize they're using, and they leave you to do it. So that was the first thing that I had, that kind of epiphany moment of, right, now I get what it's about. And then I realized that the reason I didn't understand it till that point is that half the people talking about it were talking at a too technical level. So they were talking about it from a programming point of view, and I just did not get that at all.
The
other half the time was because they didn't know what we were talking about either. They were just making it up half the time. So that's where I decided to learn, and it's never looked back. And as you say, 2016, 2017 was when Bitcoin in particular, the price started easing up, and it suddenly went, rocketed, and we ended up at about $21,000, I think it was, at the end of 2017, I think, and then it collapsed. For a while, and then it went up, and then it hit $69,000 and then it collapsed. So I find it funny, having seen it go through these cycles a few times, where I'm not actually too worried about the prices. I'm more interested in adoption. I'm more interested in, are people learning how to use it? Are companies adopting it? And tech beyond it. So it sounds like we've got some similarities there.
I think it's really grown in many ways. Initially, it was. I think there was a lot of hostility towards it. Mainly, perhaps, I think major institutions thought that it would perhaps become a threat to the kind of the financial system that they've been set up anyway, traditionally been set up, and maybe they'll lose out in some way. But I think now, as time's gone by, more and more people have started to realize, obviously, this is it's a blockchain technology anyway, is something that's here to stay, and it's a concept which I think will probably work in their benefit as well if they're on board. So I think more and more, I think in the past few years, there's been huge institutional investors and huge institutional partners. I think Cardano was partnering with huge companies, and Ethereum was partnering with pretty much every major institution you can think of. So it was. I think it's got a big future. It was a great concept. Obviously, you could. The discussion I was listening to, and there was a financial kind of economist that was coming. It was a YouTube video, ironically enough, that I was just watching, and they were talking about the future of money and the financial system generally. And then they went obviously to, and there was a point that was made, obviously, that money's become more and more digitized now. So, I mean, you can see that trend in society generally. People using cards, and I guess the people use less and less cash, and it's probably more secure in many ways. Electronic payments are probably easier and whatnot. So you could see that the future of money was going in the kind of the digital direction. And I guess it's I mean, obviously, I know crypto is different. I mean, when I first came across it, I thought it was basically just digital money, but I couldn't see why just a bank wouldn't just invent a kind of a digital dollar or a digital pound or something, and then just call it electronic pound or electronic dollar or whatever. But I guess the idea is obviously that because it's a peer-to-peer network, obviously that you've got you kind of the internet is basically your bank that guarantees, I guess in a £5 note you've got written underneath, it says that this £5 note is worth so much gold or something. I mean, going back hundreds of years or whatever.
You're going to say not anymore.
No, I mean, not anymore. But I mean, traditionally, I guess that's how money was worked. But I mean, with the crypto, your internet and your electronic, your online community is effectively your kind of guarantor, if you like. So yeah, it was. It's definitely something which was it's got a big future. I think blockchain technology is incorporated in all sorts now. It's everything from like gaming and to loans and all that type of things. People are like giving out loans and remortgaging a house on crypto.
I think that's the thing, that everyone's getting excited, but there's even more to come, is what I think. And we're just beginning. Hey, Elena's joined us. Hi, Elena.
Hello.
Hi, I'm the newbie.
Okay.
How's sunny Ireland today then?
Actually, not bad. We had a frosty night and then a beautiful morning.
Okay, that's good.
With the fields being white instead of green. So yeah, nice.
That sounds good. Well,
I hope the spring comes sooner.
Whereabouts in Ireland are you? Are you? Is it like a rural area or?
Yeah. I live in County Wicklow. That's
to
the south from Dublin, and
right.
Rural environment. It's very nice, very beautiful, but very rural.
There's a reason it's green.
Yeah,
it's because
lots of rains.
It rains a lot. Yeah,
rains a lot.
Whereas at least in England at the moment, so I was looking at the beautiful moon this evening because it's a clear sky right now, so you can see all the stars, and that just means it's going to be very cold tonight. So it'll be interesting. Sorry, it says Loris, but is that your actual name? Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Loris.
Okay,
Cool.
So it's all right. It's just sometimes people on Zoom put different names, and it's like, is that Les Oris or
yeah, I know it's not like a nickname or anything like that. I know that some people have like little
whereabouts are you based on, Loris?
So I'm in Manchester, so it's so Stockport, real South Manchester, so Stockport. So it's
I used to spend a lot of time at Manchester Airport, so I used to know the Stockport area quite well.
Manchester Airport is about 10 minutes away from me, so 10-15 minutes away from me, I guess. Like it's not so far. It's we live in Hill Green, which is like which I guess if you know Manchester Airport, it's literally a stone's throw away. I guess once you leave Manchester Airport, the first kind of town that you'd hit if you weren't to go towards the motorway, towards like Birmingham and whatnot, is if you drive from Manchester Airport towards Manchester City Centre, the first little town or whatever city is Stockport, and then you go past Hill Green, so it's very, very close. Yeah.
So is there anything of a crypto scene around there?
Not really. Not really. I mean, where I'm at is it's basically like a suburban families. I guess it's you do get young people, but I guess technology is associated with young people. I mean, not necessarily that's the case, but it's perhaps Manchester in Manchester there is like there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people that are interested, involved. There's all sorts going on actually. So and not necessarily just like crypto and stuff. There's a lot of like hacker communities, gaming communities, tech enthusiasts, computing and coding enthusiasts and whatnot. I mean, I'm not a programmer or anything like that. I mean, I did physics, but I was kind of the coding part I'm okay with, but I'm not great with or anything. I know like the basics, but that's about it really. But yeah, there are like groups which are really like, you know, they know like they know. I mean, if you're familiar with programming, they know like there's like the programming languages like C, C++, Java. Like there's a lot of like more newer programming languages like Python and whatnot for AI and whatnot. But yeah, there's yeah. I mean, I came from my kind of a discipline was mechanical, and I came from like a purely kind of physics background, so I was a bit more like scientific and yeah.
You dealt more in things moving then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
What
it was all kind of like big, large objects were going in one direction. The type of forces that act on this and that, and so. Well, I mean, obviously, I think with mechanical engineering as well, we deal with a lot with computer programs as well, because there's a lot of like computer programs that are used. So like, I guess if you're familiar with, if you ever come across like CAD software and things like that, they do a lot of designs on computers. There's like AutoCAD and SolidWorks and things like this. And then I used well, for my projects, I was familiar with like I started working with like finite element analysis, which, not to bore you too much, is basically like a computer simulation. So it's just you design like a computer simulation for like I was looking at like heat distribution and airflow and that type of thing. But you can do all sorts with it really. You can build a bridge and break it if you want and see where it buckles, and you can make a model of a car and smash it up and see how it crushes if you're an automotive enthusiast. You can do all sorts really. So
I was going to say that I do some stuff in the insurance sector sometimes. I think they use that kind of thing at times. Things like blast analysis. So they want to look at, you know, if you put a bomb in the centre of London, what's the impact, and if you make the buildings taller or rounded, does that have any impact on the blast analysis?
Yeah.
So fascinating. Well, I keep looking at all this computing capability, thinking, do you know how much you could mine with those, with crypto mining instead of you apply technology? Yeah. It's like something else.
A lot of the especially with like the higher end computers that they've got that they use for because like computers which generally like support like finite element analysis type software like Abacus and things like that, because it takes quite a lot of computer power, you need a lot of like CPU juice. So it's you could probably mine quite a bit of crypto, or you can get a lot of data from that. I think it'd be quite but it depends really. I guess it depends on your spec of your computer really. So it's
So Laura's quick question with you. This has been the first time you come to join us. Have you got any questions or anything to ask? And was there any particular reason you came along, or was it just a general let's pop in and see what it's about type thing?
Yeah, basically that. So I was just I was just looking to get involved in I guess crypto groups. I think if there's anybody that was like interested in, I mean, not necessarily just crypto, but it's like tech and crypto, like people that have the kind of similar interest in me. Just see what it's all about, basically.
The reason I ask simply is so that if people do come along, if they've taken the time and effort to join the call, I want to make sure that we cover off anything. Sometimes you get some people who've got a burning question or whatever, and I always like to try and make sure that that's kind of covered off. So that's great. It sounds like you've got that kind of general interest. And if you're interested as well, I run various WhatsApp groups and Telegram groups beyond just crypto as well. So if you start thinking about things like blockchain, as you say, and even things like artificial intelligence and that, which is growing massively at the moment. Everyone seems to have heard of ChatGPT now, which is fascinating but problematic. But yeah, if there's anything else that you're interested in, just ping me a note or something, and I'll see if there's any of the groups I know of. Certainly, I can always recommend, if you don't use it already, meetup.com.
Yeah, I'm on that. That's
Oh, you are.
that's where I
Good.
was like,
Oh, brilliant.
I was kind of looking just to, for, yeah. So
Yeah. I've used meetup.com for a few years, and it's always funny. So I sometimes run some in-person events through that as well. And I've done it with a couple of law firms where they've hosted it. And they always say, oh, how are you going to manage the attendees? And I say, oh, we use this software or this website, meetup.com. And they always think it's a dating site. Because meetup.com, sounds a bit dating. And quite often they find their firewalls have blocked it and they can't get in. And then once they get in, they go, there's all sorts of interesting groups on there. There's a legal thing about this. There's whatever about this. So I find it quite good. So Elena, you've been quiet as always. I just want to bring you in. Just for Loris's info, really. Elena will keep claiming that she's a novice. But she's something beyond a novice these days. And I think, Elena, you're more interested in the blockchain side of things. Is that right? And the ledger technology in there.
Isn't it too early for me as a novice? I'm not, at the moment, I'm interested in blockchain as a technology in general.
Mm-hmm.
And
because I still think that's where everyone keeps talking about cryptocurrency, because it's cryptocurrency that makes the noise, appears in the news, sounds exciting. I still think it's the underlying blockchain technology that is far more fascinating. The ability that's the thing that actually allows you to transfer value. It's not crypto that does that. It's actually the blockchain that facilitates that. And the fact that you can have a ledger that will track anything from diamonds from a small scale up to quite literally oil tankers at the other end of the scale, I find incredible. So yeah.
It is incredible. And Gary, the AI technology, the ChatGPT that we mentioned earlier, does this have an element of blockchain in it?
No.
How does it work? Or is it just artificial intelligence?
It uses a thing called, what is it? Generative preprocess something. All it's done is, if you think about, if you're working out something relatively simple, the probability of something happening. Okay, so say the probability of a car crash, for example. Mm-hmm. There's going to be various parameters involved in that, like how old the driver is, how much experience they've got, what type of car it is, what the road conditions are, and you can kind of assign probabilities to each of those things that, when they add up, give you an indication of how likely a car is to crash. Okay, so that's just a set of parameters. Well, ChatGPT is using a model that has got 176 billion combination of parameters. Okay, so it's more than just car crashes type thing. And what they've done, they've populated it by pointing an engine at things like Wikipedia and a whole range of websites and information sources from about 2021. And so all it's done, it's actually quite boring in a way under the hood, is that it's worked out the probabilities of all sorts of stuff connecting with each other. And what it then does is, if you go onto Google and you type into Google, weather in Wicklow or something, then it'll go and find you some websites. And the websites are all websites that have got weather in Wicklow type thing. With ChatGPT, is it actually goes away and it builds effectively a statistical model of what the answer to your question is going to be. So if you ask it a question like, how sunny is it in Wicklow? Then it will go away, and rather than just giving you a website with weather and everything, it will go away and it will build a response based on the probability of what the next word is in a sentence and what sentences are going to be. So you can try it. It's free, the basic version at the moment. You can register. And it's the fastest growing software facility ever. So you think about how quickly people got onto Facebook and then how quickly people got onto Twitter. I think ChatGPT's got something like 5 million users, and it's only been running for a few months. So it's amazing. we'll give it a go, because you can type stuff in, and you can type simple stuff, like what is the climate in Dublin, and it'll go away, and rather than giving you some websites, it'll actually give you a response. And then you can do crazy stuff. You can say, explain the typical weather in Dublin to a 5-year-old. Okay, so it then repositions the response back to be the most likely response that a 5-year-old would get. Or you could say, explain particle physics to an 11-year-old, or write a LinkedIn article giving me 5 points about why blockchain is important. And it'll go away and it'll construct something that looks like it's been written effectively by a human being. It's amazing technology. A lot of people don't understand how it really works, and so they just believe the answers it gives, and it can get them wrong. The problem is people don't realize that they get them wrong. And it's not blockchain.
How does it actually work? How does it do it? How does the actual...
So it is simply, it's built up a phenomenal model. So the way databases have changed over the years is databases for like 50, 60 years were rows and columns of data. So, your customer table with name, address, phone number, blah, 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 and you'd have that link to your sales and all this kind of thing. Well, with newer technologies, you get what called graph engines. And graph engines start identifying how closely correlated a word or a concept is to another word or a concept. So you can throw a graph engine against text articles like newspapers and that, and it'll build up things. So it'll start figuring out things like, king is to queen, like prince is to princess.
Right, yeah, I think I'm with you.
So it starts building up what associative models, and it starts working out the probabilities of what the next most likely thing is going to be. And it's like magic. It's a little bit like, if you look on your computer screen right now, can anyone see me? Wave if you can see me. You see me? Go on, Elena, give me a wave. Yeah. You can see me. Yeah. No, you can't. What you can actually see is little LEDs on your screen, all lighting up in a certain way, which makes it look as though you can see me. And it's one of those things that you don't think about it. It's just, oh, well, it's a magic screen. It does stuff, and it looks like you're looking at me. Now, ChatGPT and those type of AIs, they kind of work in a similar way, that they don't actually give you what you think they are giving you, or it gives the appearance or it is. The easiest thing I say to people is just go and try it. I used it the other week because I do training sessions with various companies, and I was doing a webinar the other week about artificial intelligence and that. So I got ChatGPT to write a LinkedIn article for me. So I just said, write a LinkedIn article to introduce ChatGPT, and it went off. It wrote a few paragraphs or whatever. I then asked it, what is an insurance policy? Because a lot of the stuff I do is in the insurance sector, and it went off and it gave a definition of what an insurance policy is. I then took that text, imported that into another piece of AI called DID, and DID is a video generator. And so it then created this image of a woman speaking the words that I'd got the other AI to create in an American accent. So it said, an insurance policy is a contract between blah, 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 blah. And then I posted it on LinkedIn. And end to end, it took me about half an hour. I reckon now I could do it in 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something. But it just shows how amazing things are. And all they're typically doing, it's statistics to the nth degree. That's just working out, if you've done typing, for example, if you learn to type traditionally, if I said the quick brown, then anyone who's done typing will know that the next word is fox, because it's just the nature of when you learn to type. There's some of the quick brown fox, I can't remember the rest of it, but it's because the digits are the characters are quite hard to do. So the quick brown fox is a known little test type thing. Now, that just means that statistically, if you say what's the next word after the quick brown, probably Fox is likely to be the next word. And that's all it does. It does these computation things, and it looks like magic. It looks incredible. Go and try it. Just check out ChatGPT by OpenAI. It was originally, one of the founders originally was Elon Musk. And he stepped away from it a few years ago, and he said that this organization is not going in the direction I want it to go in, because it was meant to be all open source and open, and it's become profitable and this kind of thing. But it's fascinating. But no, it's not blockchain based. But what you could do is you could start linking ChatGPT to a blockchain in some way. So you could start saying things like, give me the answer to this question, and then file that question on a blockchain. And then in a few years' time, you could ask the same question, see if it's changed and that kind of thing. Yeah, but there are businesses setting up from scratch right now who are doing things like building your social media presence using ChatGPT. So, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, your YouTube channels, and you can say, write a 500-word essay on crop erosion in Netherlands, and it just goes off and does it, and it's incredible. Or as a doctor did the other week, I saw a video of a doctor who said, right, I've got a 35-year-old female patient who is coughing and spluttering and this, and he described the symptoms, and he said, what's the diagnosis? And ChatGPT came up with a weird diagnosis. It was something very, very specific. That turned out to be right. And he went, oh, that's interesting. And so he said to ChatGPT, how did you come up with that answer? And it said, oh, I use these articles, blah, 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 blah. And that's where it got really interesting, because when he went to check where the articles came from, they didn't exist. So ChatGPT had kind of created non-existent references, that kind of thing. So it does lie at times, but only through stats. So fascinating area.
Yeah, I remember this was, a few years ago. Actually, the technology sounded a lot similar to, I guess it is artificial neural networks that it uses. I guess so. This is going back to again when I was back to my student days. But I did in my master's course we did a module in neural networks, and I remember from the technology. I guess it's the same thing, really. So in effect, it takes data and it does what I think is like machine learning, right? So it looks at the pattern and then it looks for like so it identifies patterns which are repeating. So I forgot a lot. This is quite a long way back because I forgot a lot about that course, but there were different, like they look at the input signals coming in, and then if they find like a correlation between the certain patterns that kind of repeat themselves, then with the data, and in effect that they can use that to forecast what will happen in the future as well.
Exactly, and that's exactly what it uses. It uses precisely, as you say, the neural network technology with statistics against it. So is it convolution neural networks and RNN? I think.
Yeah, it was a few years ago, but I remember that there were different types of neural networks. So in effect, it's basically a signal going in to it's electronic signal coming in, and then it would identify. It's almost like it replicates what a neuron does. So, and then but you do it on a computer in effect. So I remember back then we actually used a software called Simulink. I don't know if you're familiar with that, or like MATLAB. It was like a and then you could use different types of neural networks there to forecast. Well, we were given a task which I failed miserably on to I think it was forecast. I think anyway, we were given some. We can give data and you have to try to forecast an outcome, what would happen to it for it. But I guess it's that technology really.
It's exactly that. And you look at, like, as you say, StatPack, MATLAB, all these kind of things, and all they're basically doing is building up probabilities of various parameters and configurations to work out what the most likely outcome is. And because it's done so fast, then it looks amazing. You know, if it churned out one word a day or something, it's like going back to the Sinclair Spectrum days where you had a cassette tape with a computer program on, and that it'd be something else. But because it's so fast, it looks as though it's thinking for itself. When in actual fact, all it is actually doing, it's doing computations very, very quickly. So,
yeah.
So there you go, Elena. That's something else for you to check out this week.
It is. Do you think we are on the way to artificially written articles on LinkedIn?
But they are already there. I'm sitting on LinkedIn where I'm looking at some articles, and I've actually posted to a couple of people to say, do you get that written by ChatGPT? Because it's one of these strange things that it doesn't say it's written by ChatGPT, but at times, you know, the way you can tell a writer's style. You know, if you've got a favorite author or a favorite journalist, you can quite often recognize the style, even though you can't work out exactly why it is. You just go, that's written by such and such. There's been a couple that I thought they were written by ChatGPT, and I wrote to both people, and both of them said, yes, how did you know? I said, I don't know, but it just felt like it had come from that. So it does have a style to itself. So yeah, there are already loads of articles appearing on LinkedIn that are written by ChatGPT. In particular, the ones that are articles about using ChatGPT. So people are using it to write stuff about itself. Yeah, well, you can do great stuff. You can do things like, you know, write, give me a bullet point list of the top 10 things to watch out for of using ChatGPT, and then you can drill into each of them and all sorts of stuff. So I know it's not crypto, it's not blockchain. You could ask it things like, which crypto is going to go up in price? And this is where it's intelligent enough to say, I don't offer recommendations. So it is smart enough on that. And it is a static data set that it was trained on. It was from, I think it was the middle or the end of 2021. So if you ask it about anything that is relatively new, you know, if you said, who's the Prime Minister of England now, then it doesn't know when now is. You know, it doesn't know what date it is as a concept, but it doesn't know who the current Prime Minister is. If you said something like, who's the Prime Minister of England or the UK in 1944, then it knows historically, but it doesn't have any current stuff. But it's fascinating to play with, particularly when you use it to write a script and then you load that script into something else. So there's the company who've developed it, it's a company called OpenAI. They've also developed another piece of software which generates images from textual descriptions. So if you do something like, draw me a picture of an astronaut in a shopping mall, for example, then it will go off and it will do a painting of an astronaut in a shopping mall. Then you can say, draw me a painting of an astronaut in a shopping mall in the style of Dali. So, you know, Salvador Dali, and it'll do a Dali style painting. So I did a LinkedIn article.
Yeah, I heard about I heard about robots, well, like the AI machines that were starting to produce art as well. That was that it goes into the kind of the remit of like how kind of close to humanity it can get, really. And there was one that was worrying because that they hadn't, well, you probably know, but they have like, there was a conference on AI robotics and things like this, and one of the topics was the kind of the ethical practices, you know, of like what happens when the machines start to, you know, get close to human intellect, and you know they're able to like rival the human mind. I mean, still, obviously, the brain is the far most complex kind of, well, or the most sophisticated.
It can get close, but not 100% close.
Yeah, I mean, there were cases of programs that had been written. Well, there were AI, I guess, but that were writing programs. Like computer programs, basic, simple programs. Like, I guess if you're a coder, it's like Hello World and all the basic kind of go here, open this directory, that directory. But there were basically machines that were basically writing this code to tell the computer to do this, which it comes to the point where it almost like simulates a human being brain in that sense. And then there's it goes into the kind of the ethical realm of I think there's like these laws that have been drafted up. I don't know exactly everything. I'm not like a but like it should not contradict human or whatever it is, interest or whatever. And then there's a whole kind of debate there about how far should this go? How far should perhaps it's a danger and it could be a threat to human existence and whatnot. But anyway, that's another story for another day.
It's a fascinating area because the EU is drawing up a whole load of rules and regulations around AI at the moment. In the UK, they're drafting some stuff around artificial intelligence because you've got a whole range of issues and concerns. You're right about the ethical dimension, but you've even got some things like ultimately the AI is only as good as the data you feed it. So if the data's wrong in some way, if it's got a bias or it's got some errors or a coder has intentionally modified it, then it could lead to all sorts of things. So in the UK, the regulator on the financial services side of things, so it's the Financial Conduct Authority, they've written papers already around the use of AI in automated decision making. So things like if you're applying for a loan, a lot of the loan application process actually uses AI these days to determine the propensity to default. So whether you're going to be good for the loan or not. The problem with that is that if you've trained it with a set of data, which may inadvertently have some bias in it, it might have detected that people of a certain age group or a certain ethnic background or of a particular gender or whatever have got a propensity to default, then it might start rejecting people on the basis that they happen to be that. And so there's all sorts of ethical things around that, definitely. But yeah, there's a concept known as the singularity, which is the point at which the machines get cleverer than human beings. And that's the time we need to start worrying. And there's been all sorts of sci-fi films about what we do when that happens. But ChatGPT, as I say, that's based on what's called the GPT-3 model. That's got 176 billion, what are effectively neurons, as you were saying before. They reckon that by about 2030, there'll be a model that will have the same number of neurons in as a human brain. So that's the point where they say, well, it'll be equivalent to the computing power of a human brain. But then, as I keep saying to people, if you look at how badly humans use their brains, because we only use a few percent capacity, and you look at some of the decisions we make, how bad they are, then getting a computer to do it's not necessarily going to be a threat. But we'll see. We may wake up one day and the computer is taking our lives over.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fascinating area. I do talks on that kind of thing, where I specifically talk about AI and the ethics and law and regulation and that. There's so much going on in that space.
How you use technology and whatnot, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Because I find that I work with companies, and it comes back to blockchain, that they say, oh yeah, we've heard about blockchain, we want to start using it in our business. And when you start engaging with them, you realize what they want to use it for is totally the wrong thing. It's just not suitable. Well, occasionally it's the same with AI. They say, oh, well, we want to start using AI to improve our decision making or whatever it is. And you ask them what the actions are as a result of the current decisions that they make. And they go, oh yeah, we've got business intelligence, we've got analytics, but to be honest, we tend to go with our gut feel because we've got people who've worked there for years and we believe that. It's like, well, it doesn't matter if I give you some AI solution then, does it? You're going to ignore it. So it's a fascinating area. Yep, a somewhat different topic this evening then from blockchain and
It is.
crypto. But there are links as well. There are companies who are doing things like they are building AI models on top of blockchain. I've forgotten the name. There is a particular blockchain that is kind of AI aligned. I did a presentation with them a while ago. And they're actually doing analytics on top of the blockchain. But that's more in terms of looking at things for things like cryptocurrencies and working out prices and all that kind of thing. But there's no reason, I keep saying that in the future, the three major things that are going to link together is IoT, so Internet of Things. So we've all got smartwatches, mobile phones, all these things generating loads and loads of data. That's going to be one corner of the triangle. Another corner of the triangle is going to be blockchain technology and distributed ledgers. So you're capturing it, you're storing it, it can't be changed, that kind of thing. And then AI sitting on top of all of that. So you got that tripartite thing. So there you can do the analytics, the decision making, all that kind of. I think we're in for an amazing time in the future.
A lot of changes, definitely. a lot of changes.
Yeah, and with the speed everything is developing, this amazing time may come sooner than we think.
So it was interesting. There's two things on that. The first is that there's a politician in the UK whose name I'm not going to mention because he's fallen from grace. But I went to one of his talks a couple of years ago at the Financial Times in London, and he came up with a brilliant point. So presumably one of his civil servants had given him this because it was a great idea. He said, if you think that the world is getting faster and faster now, he said, what that means is that today is the slowest it's going to be for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
probably,
quite profound. Yeah,
it's probably right.
It's going to get faster and faster. And the other thing is, I talk to people that technology, it follows what's known as an exponential growth phase, and human beings do not comprehend just how fast and how big exponential change is. So if you think about if you've got a pond in your garden or whatever, and a lily forms on it, so a little lily pad appears, you go, oh, that's a nice lily, no big deal. And then a second one appears the next day. You go, oh, there's a couple of them. And then there's 4, and then there's 8, and then there's 16. So it's doubling each day. You don't really notice it. You know, it looks like a nice few lilies over in the corner until 3 days before it's completely covered. Because it'll go, you know, if it's got space for like 64 lilies or 128 lilies or whatever, it's not until it gets to 16, 32, 64, game over. And that's how technology works exponentially. So ChatGPT, going back to that for a minute, the company who launched that had no idea it was going to explode the way it did. And they just rolled it out almost as an experiment. I think they developed it in a matter of weeks as well. It was kind of a little bit rushed for some reason. And before they knew it, they had 1 million subscribers. And as I say now, I think they've now got 5 million subscribers, and they launched it in, I think it was the end of October. For some reason, October 26th rings a bell with me. So it shows, you know, 5 million subscribers in 3 months is phenomenal. And now that they're providing the ability to have what's called an API, so an application programming interface. So if you've got some other software, you can automatically integrate it with ChatGPT. And I know that Microsoft are doing some work. Microsoft are actually an investor in this. And what they're looking at doing is embedding it or linking it in some way into the Microsoft Office suite. So you'll be able to access ChatGPT through an Excel spreadsheet. Now, imagine if you say to ChatGPT, here's an Excel spreadsheet with 100 customers, research each customer and work out probability we will do business with them. Well, it's something like that. And it'll go off and done. So there's your market research people gone. There's your business development people gone. You can then get ChatGPT to say, write a bespoke letter or a bespoke email to each customer, and it will go and write an. So there's any kind of support people gone. It's Fascinating.
Yeah, I think there was also quite a lot of concern as well, because with AI, especially with, well, not just AI, I guess, with a lot of the technologies that are coming through, a lot of the older kind of traditional jobs, which I guess countries have depended on for their kind of core economy, have and a lot of kind of, I guess, lesser skilled jobs, if you like. I mean, if it's for the more unpolite term, it's those are starting to be more and more automated. So it's it's a question of how do you kind of redirect the skill base of the general population in order to align with like the technology. So I guess perhaps train everybody in coding or something, or try to make them familiar with programs or how to run this. Yeah, so it depends on. I guess there's like huge social there's huge social consequences for a lot of the technologies that get like pushed through from industry. I think even the Internet of Things that kind of been there's a lot of like industries now, from everything from automotive to kind of, I guess, kind of confectionery foods and everything. You name it, I guess the Internet of Things can be applied to it. So there'll be a lot of people that the job description shortened dramatically or even completely. So it's it's
that's the nature of technology. That's just the way it goes.
I guess it's a reskilling, or just have to kind of train people in new things.
So what I recommend is don't learn programming, because ChatGPT, you can say to it, write a Python program to do X, Y, Z, and it will write a Python program, or write an Excel macro that will create a table and color it in this way, and it will go and write it all. Now, I'm not saying that the quality of the code is particularly good, but it will write programs, which is mind blowing. And going back to the other thing, the physical world. I went to a motor manufacturer's plant, Ford, when they were building some cars, and I went to the production line when they just automated it all. So watching all the robots building cars, where previously that had been thousands of assembly workers, and you go, wow, that's kind of amazing. That's just the nature of automation. I
guess it was the same with when blockchain technology came out as well, because if you look at it, there was a lot of panic around what will happen to banks and what will happen to financial institutions. Is this going to make all the banks redundant, and people are not going to need to put money in a traditional account anymore. So it'd been, but obviously, I guess the industry adapts. I guess now a lot of the major financial institutions are kind of funding a lot of the projects themselves. So it's kind of, you find a way to kind of incorporate the two together, or work the two together.
But banks are very good at surviving. That's the nature of it. They've lasted for a few hundred years. But you're right, and if you look at how money's evolved, you were talking right at the beginning.
There's going to be a lot of losers there as well, especially. I guess if there's major financial institutions that have been running for hundreds of years, all of a sudden overnight go bust or whatever. Right?
So this is where again they're playing it a little bit smart. That they're making it harder and harder to use crypto at the moment. So if you actually buy and sell crypto, your bank account probably is not going to accept the payment from exchange. What you've also got is you've got, as you say, some banks are investing in the technology themselves. So JP Morgan have created their own cryptocurrency called JPM Coin. There's a company called Ripple in the USA who've developed XRP, which is a cryptocurrency. They're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes with a lot of banks about using their own inbuilt crypto to come up with things. So there are ways around that. And then governments and central banks are doing a lot of work in this space as well. As you said earlier, most payments now are digital in nature. I think in the UK, something like 93%, possibly even higher, of all payments are digital. So you think about touch to pay, swipe card, all this kind of thing. So the Bank of England is about to embark on a program around looking at what known as central bank digital currencies. So this is digitization of a currency. But it's completely different to cryptocurrency, because with a central bank digital currency, the very first word is the word central, which means that they control it all, whereas cryptocurrency is exactly the opposite. It's decentralized. And what you find, therefore, is that the central banks and the governments like central bank digital currencies because centralized means they can control it. They don't like cryptocurrencies because they're decentralized and they're harder to control. So I think there's going to be some discussion, debates, regulation, legislation, and all sorts going on around crypto. Particularly, there's a particular type of cryptocurrency known as stable coins.
Yeah. The Tether and things like this. I think in the United States they brought that out as a and there was the electronic dollar as well that they brought out, which was almost in a way. I mean, it's different, I guess, but I suppose in some senses to kind of be traditional like Bitcoin and whatnot. But still, it was they introduced that as a kind of a.
So I'm going to quickly ask Elena then on this because she'll pull me up on it anyway. Do you know what a stable coin is?
Stable coin is a coin that's always worth a set amount of some value. Is it?
Yeah, it's pretty much that. It's great. It's quite often if I say something and then later on Elena says, "Can we just go back to when you said something?" So yeah, absolutely. So a stable coin is a crypto token which is pegged to something else. Exactly. So it could be pegged to a fiat currency like dollars, pounds, whatever. It could be pegged to gold. It could be pegged to another cryptocurrency. But the ones, as Loris mentioned, Tether is an example, and BUSD, which is, sorry, that's Binance as well. But certainly Tether is a good example. It's pegged to the US dollar. And what that means is that companies, rather than buying an obscure cryptocurrency like many of the ones behind me here, they might buy something like Tether initially, which is a way of converting dollars into a cryptocurrency that they can then work on an exchange. The reason that the central banks don't like stable coins is because it gives the potential that if there's a sudden rush on a stable coin, if that's pegged to a fiat currency, it could suddenly cause a rush on the fiat currency. And they've lost control, so that they get quite nervous about that. Anyway, it looks like we are nearly on the hour. I always try and close these off at 8 o'clock, due to other commitments and that. So I hope you both found that something interesting, a little bit different. Normally we do actually talk about blockchain and cryptocurrencies and NFTs and DeFi.
All the
It's
time.
interesting. It's an interesting conversation.
And so we've ended up talking about ChatGPT and AI, but that's fine. That's not a problem. Well, I hope it was worth joining anyway. Anyway, thank you very much, both of you, for joining. Obviously, anyone who joins and watches this on YouTube afterwards, hope you find that interesting and different as well. And hopefully see you again next week. You're always welcome.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Have a nice week.
Thanks for.
All right, cheers now. Bye.
Bye-bye.